Hello. Thank you, Russel Wallace, for joining us today. This is the music workshops for the Summer Solstice and Aboriginal Arts Festival. Now, this workshop, we're doing a little intimate interview today with music composition. And Russell, I understand, and we all know that you're an award-winning Lillooet Nation composer, artist, performer. You performed last evening for the closing, which was really wonderful. And you have such a wealth of knowledge and experiences and have been in so many different arts, multidisciplinary. You compose for dance, theater, all kinds of different film, I believe, too, as well. And such a vast array of experiences. Maybe what you could do is first tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started composing and creating music and what your influences were.
Well, Kookstum, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, I come from the Lillooet Nation. I grew up in Vancouver, though, and well, Vancouver is about 2 hours away, but so a lot of my work in music started as a kid. My mom was a traditional singer, and apparently I sang with her all the time, and like I would, you know, she said as young as like 3 and 4, I'd be up singing with her, and I don't remember all of these things, but she goes, yeah, you ran up and sang beside me, so the early years I sang with her, and then when my voice changed, I just stopped. I think with a lot of people, the same with a lot of people, I just stopped singing. I was like, I couldn't hit those high notes anymore. And it wasn't until like I was about 18 or 19 as I got more comfortable with my bass voice. So so I started singing bass, and I was like, okay, this is kind of fun actually. And so like I, relearned a lot of things. But in terms of composition, I started doing that in theater. I took theater classes at Spirit Song, and a lot of the production we just wrote, on the fly with everybody. And so that's how I kind of fell into composition for theater. It's like just kind of like, okay, I can understand what the director is saying, and I know what the actors want and what kind of emotion they're looking for. And so that kind of pushed me into composition. Like I didn't really anticipate being a composer at that point because, I don't really have any Western music training. It's all traditional music knowledge and practice that I do. I'm the kind of person who just like jumps into something, and I was interested in electronica, so like I rented samplers, rented synthesizers, sequencers, all these wires going everywhere, and I remember sequencing something, and it's like, if you're doing a 3-minute sequence, you have to sit there and play every note for 3 minutes, and electronic music interested me, so I just rented everything and learned how to do it just by trial and error.
That's amazing. That's an incredible journey, really. Who knew you'd come from singing traditional to, being a contemporary composer? I think a lot of people in that sort of Western format don't consider our traditional art, like artist-based or traditional music-based artists as composers, and it makes so much sense. I want to introduce Elizabeth. Maybe you joined us today for this workshop and interview of Russell. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll ask Russell some more questions. And anytime you want to ask him a question, just let me know. I'll pass you the mic.
Thank you. I'm doing herbalist. That's what I do in life, and I'm beginning to study midwifery soon. And I just really like and drum and Aboriginal culture and music particularly. So I've made my drum 1 year ago, and I play a bit and I write a big song, but it's just for fun and for me and my friend. But I was interested to hear you, so yeah, that's it.
Thank you for joining us. Now, Russell, you talked about not having Western training, but you're composing now and you just sort of figured things out. Did you have to learn a bit of theory and Western theory in order to start working maybe with other musicians and like dancers and performers who may come from more of the European sort of listening and I guess, they count beats, a lot of the dancers. So maybe you could talk a bit about how you merge those two worlds.
Yeah, it was kind of tricky dealing with performers because, as an electronic artist, you compose for yourself and, you create all these lines all by yourself and, you just press a button and everything happens. But yeah, when I started working with Western trained musicians, especially classically trained musicians, like they want a score and I was like, okay, I can't write out a score, but I'll play the track for you. But yeah, eventually, I learned a lot from these musicians, and they talked about meter and stuff like that, which I kind of had a little idea about. But then finally, them showing me the notes, and I was like, okay, I can figure this out. And being in some choirs too, you have to kind of sight read as you sing, and once I know where the beginning is, I can kind of follow. Once I know the first note, I was like, okay, now I can figure this out. But yeah, eventually, I did, become more proficient in terms of talking about what I want in terms of performance from an artist, a music artist. And I did go to UBC. I got my degree in creative writing, but I did take a lot of ethnomusicology classes as well. And I did take a Western theory music class that I thought would be really helpful. And I failed terribly. It was horrible. It was an online course, and that's at the point where I learned I can't learn online. I have to be in a classroom and listen to a teacher and engage with other people. And this is how I learned, in an oral sense. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I come from an oral history, so. But it was interesting because ethnomusicology also. You think, music of the world, we studied Chinese music, we studied gamelan and classical Indian music, West African drumming, but it was always from a Western perspective. It's kind of hindered me in some ways, because, I can't write a score for the, Vancouver Symphony or, I can't write a score for all these classically trained musicians, but writing out a score, I could do it now, but it would take me a long time to... Plus, my writing is messy.